I didn't grow up in a Christian home, which is ironic. I had planned on being a priest.
Did you like that life?
Definitely lots of growing.
Before I joined Life Action, I was a professional clown. Cara called and said, my parents said no.
And we came out of the tab and he's like, what's wrong with you? You're crying. Like, I met Jesus.
Well, what is it about dads that makes you tear up? Wait, baby number 6 was a surprise?
Yes.
And then baby number 7 was a super surprise.
Yes.
There was no ambiguity in that statement.
I have a very zealous passion to see God glorified.
Welcome to Changed Lives, a special limited series in which I explore the incredible stories of the people behind the scenes at Life Action, a ministry with a mission of reviving relationships through transformative events. Each of these individuals, my co-workers, have experienced God move in big and unexpected ways. The more I heard their stories, the more I thought, people need to hear this. In this series, you'll get a first-hand look at how God is working in and through the people of Life Action, the challenges they face, the faith that sustains them, and the lives being transformed along the way. Their stories are powerful. Today I'm joined by Jon and Carra, two incredible leaders who serve behind the scenes, and often right in the middle of the fun, at Life Action Camp. In our conversation, we talk about how they each came to faith, how God led them to Life Action, including some surprising turns that have shaped the way they serve today. As you listen, consider how you might be part of what God is doing through Life Action. Your prayers and partnership fuel the impact of people like Jon and Carra, who are investing daily in changed lives for the kingdom. Let's jump in. So joining me today is Jon and Carra Moorman, and thank you both for taking the time to let us walk through your life story and what brought you here. So I'd love to start with just what your title is. What does that mean? If someone were to, meet up with you at a coffee shop, or maybe you hop on an elevator and someone says, "Oh, hi, who are you? What do you do?" What would your answer be to that question?
I am the activities director at camp and also message development, the message team. Activities director, what that means is all of the activities at all of the events at camp, whether it's the retreats that we do, whether it's family camp. I oversee the development, design, building, and execution of all those different activities, whether it's the in-session games or after-session activities in the evenings or our theme activities during the day. I've got my hand in that with an awesome activities team. And then with the message development for family camp, I do all the children's material, which that's probably one of my favorite things to write is the children's material and the skits that go along with that. And then I also develop the outlines of the material that we give to our family camp speakers each year. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
That's a lot of things to fit in a nutshell.
It is. It's a lot of fun. I like it, but it's a very big nutshell.
Yes, a very big one. Yes. And then Carra, what would you say to that question?
I do a lot of guest services kind of things.
Yeah.
Talking with guests at meals, checking in snack shop, lots of beach meetings, sun gathering.
You guys really work together as a team.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we enjoy it a lot. And so being able to have our kiddos there with us too is huge.
Yeah.
And so I kid corral and guest hang out, and it's sweet. It's very sweet.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. But you haven't always been at Life Action. So I'd love to start with where you're from and what life was like growing up. So I'm actually going to start with you, Carra.
Okay.
So tell me where you're from and where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Turtletown, USA, Cherubusco, Indiana, right? Just not too far from here.
Okay.
And so grew up in a Christian home and with four sisters and
a brother. You're the fifth. You're the
I'm the
fifth.
fifth.
Yeah, that's a big family. All
Yeah.
right. So
And
Christian
so-
home. So mom and
Yes.
dad, faith was a central part of family life.
Yes.
And so what did that look like growing up?
We homeschooled.
Mhm.
And so it was daily just being in the Word and in and out of normal Christian life. We were in and out of church every Sunday, Wednesday, every time the
Gotcha.
doors were open. And so that was huge.
Faith is a central part. And so when you are graduating from that, did you always know that you wanted to go into ministry, or what did you think your life trajectory was going to be?
I had a desire to be in full-time ministry.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I didn't know for sure what God wanted me to do. So when we graduated from high school, my parents were like, "You need to do a year of Bible college." And I was like, Okay. So I went to Bible college for a year and loved it. But at that point, I wasn't a believer. And
You weren't.
so I was not. And so that's
Okay, that's a bit of a twist in the story
It's
because you had grown up.
right. Yes. And I thought was saved at 4 and said the prayer and all the things, but it was always a Cara can do this relationship. It wasn't this is what God's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until after traveling on the road as a team member,
After traveling.
marrying a pastor,
Okay.
that's when God saved me and made me his own.
Did you realize, though, or did you think that you were a believer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
Okay.
that was the goal. We were very much involved in youth group and all the Christian service kind of things. And yeah,
You were doing all the things.
right. But hollow, no relationship. It
Mm.
was all one-sided, doing it on my own. Cara's a good girl. Cara can do this versus Jesus is doing this. And so, yes.
After 1 year at Bible college, you said at some point you joined the team.
Yes.
So did you know about Life Action before all this?
Okay. So my sister traveled on Blue Team with Steve and Debbie. And so I always thought, oh, I want to be a team member. I want to sing because I love to sing. And never really thought I would go on the road until after college. Like, I don't know what I want to do.
Sure.
And so that's when God kind of opened the door. But it wasn't as a singer. It was as a children's minister.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. As I interview staff members, it's so funny to me because there have been multiple who are like, I wanted to be a singer.
Yes.
But God said you were going to be in children's ministry.
Yes. Yes. I traveled 2 years with Mark and Amy on silver. And then our last year, I traveled on white team with Lane and Janet Johnson.
Okay. So you went in as children's ministry.
Yes.
Did you enjoy that?
I did. I loved it. And I love kids. And so I loved it, but I always had that longing to sing. And so I would help with like ladies' luncheon and that kind of thing. And then my second year, they're like, we need a first soprano. Do you want to try out? And I'm like, please.
Yes.
Please. And so my second year, I kind of helped with clubs and sang at the same time. And so it was good. And my third year, I was straight solo or soprano.
So did you travel together? Is that how you met?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to go back then, and we're going to talk about you, Jon. So, Jon, where are you from?
My dad was Air Force.
Okay.
So traveled
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. Now I claim Georgia as my home. That's where my dad is from. That's where all my family is.
Okay.
And when my dad retired, that's where we landed, and I spent all my teen years in Georgia. So that's where I claim as home.
Okay.
But that's why I don't have the incredibly deep Southern accent or
Yeah.
anything. So
What was life like then growing up?
actually, I really enjoyed it. Growing up on Air Force bases, there was always a ready supply of friends.
Sure.
And I didn't grow up in a Christian home, which is ironic. My dad's job in the Air Force, he was a chapel manager. My mom was Catholic, and so we went to the Catholic services on base. It's funny, I was an altar boy, but only went to church when I was serving as an altar boy. Went to Catholic school, but really no spiritual life whatsoever in the home. I didn't get saved until I was 15.
Okay.
And I was actually the first person in my family to get saved. I've had the opportunity to lead my mom and sister to the Lord since then, and my dad's a believer now. But so, yeah, growing up, kind of different from Cara's in that it wasn't a Christian home. There wasn't any kind of real church going or church background.
Did you recognize that disconnect?
Yeah, it's what it was. Yeah. What changed, my parents are divorced, and that's when my dad moved back to Georgia, and I would go visit him during the summers. So my dad started going back to church when he moved back to Georgia, mainly because it's Georgia. You go to church. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So when I went down to stay with him one summer, some kids in the youth group kind of befriended me and invited me to a youth function, a youth event. And that was the first time I had ever really heard the gospel. Up to then, it was, be a good person, that kind of stuff. And so that's where God called me. That was 85, 86.
So then what do you do then after school? Like, does that send you on a different trajectory or?
I had planned on being a priest. Now,
Because you were the altar boy that went every Christmas.
that's right. I don't know why I was going to be a priest, but those were my thoughts.
Interesting.
And so in one way, yes, very different pathway.
Yeah.
But in another sense, not so different.
Sure.
Because I did end up going into full-time pastoral ministry, but as a believer. That makes a bit of a difference.
Just a tiny one. Yes.
So yeah, after high school, I actually went right into the workforce, but I had a desire to go to school and go into youth ministry because every late teen, early 20s guy, I'm going to be a youth pastor. That's
right. That's what you do.
yes. God was doing a lot in my life where I was really seeking his direction and really felt the Lord leading me to move back to Illinois, which is where my mom and my sister were. By that time, I was living in Georgia. And so I picked up everything, moved to Illinois. That was in September of 93. Then in the fall of 95, Life Action came to my church. It was the Red Team came to my church. And I had several friends from my church then join Life Action and travel on road teams. And
because of that event.
Because of that event, yes. And one of them, she was a good friend of mine. She joined Life Action, met a guy. They got married and then came back to my church after they left Life Action. And he and I got to be really good friends. And he really encouraged me to check out Life Action. So in 99, I applied for the youth revivalist position. Now, at that time, they didn't need a youth revivalist. So I got made the second best thing, audio tech. So, which I had no experience.
Wow.
And soundboards scare me. All the buttons and dials and
Dang.
it's petrifying to me.
So you had thought you were going to be a youth pastor and had gone that direction, but then you decide, okay, well, I'm going to try this thing.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So raised my support and came to Life Action, and Dan Puckett was doing the training and all that for the audio techs. And about 3 days in, he came and said, okay, you're not going to be an audio tech. I'm like, okay. You're going to be the visual media tech. He said, including running the PowerPoint. I'm like, what's PowerPoint? And he handed me a computer, said, you'll figure it out. And I did. Because back then we were still doing Bring Back the Glory in America, You're Too Young to Die.
Okay.
So I was responsible for all the visuals for that and the screens and all that kind of setup. So that was actually my first year. But then the youth guy on my team, I was on Blue Team, he had me be his assistant youth revivalist. So I got to do a lot of the teaching that year and some of the Saturday, back then it was called Master Control. Got to do a lot of the teaching then. So I didn't get to be the youth guy.
Yeah.
But God did give me opportunities to work with youth that year alongside Stephen. And then my second year, here it comes. They said, do you want to be a children's minister?
Yeah.
So there we go. I fit in the mold there. Well, I wanted to do this, but do you want to be a children's minister?
Yes. No, we hear you, but how about this?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. And I had already been doing children's ministry for a good while because before I joined Life Action, I was a professional clown. And,
like a dress up, go to parties clown.
Yes.
Well, no, I never did birthday parties.
Okay.
It was all ministry, children's ministry.
Oh, I did not know that there was a children's ministry clown track, professional track.
Our clown troupe, we were called the Street Jesters.
You said clown troupe. You had a whole clown troupe.
Yep, we had a whole clown troupe. Myself and my clown partner, he and I were the directors of this clown troupe called the Street Jesters. And every Friday night we would do street ministry, and then with our whole troop. And then he and I would do VBSs and church camps and that kind of stuff. So I'd been doing children's ministry for 5 or 6 years before Life Action, and that's actually somehow they caught wind of that. And that's when they asked me if I wanted to be a CM.
So you see this clown coming down.
Yes.
And you think, that's the guy for me.
Actually, we called it Super Saturday by the time I got on the road.
Okay.
And he would juggle for the kids. And so it was very fun, very entertaining to watch him. Everybody loved him.
Well, how do you meet? So tell me the story of how you meet.
When she came on the road, so I was media tech and assistant youth guy. Second year I was a CM, and then towards the end of my second year, my plan was 2 years in Life Action and then go to school. And towards the end of my second year, Steve Canfield said, "So what are your plans next year?" I said, "I'm going to pursue seminary." He's like, "Well, would you be interested in being the youth director on Silver Team?" I'm like, "Oh, man." So I'll pray about it. And so he sent me out to spend a week with Silver Team because that's where I would be moving to. After that, I'm like, you know what? I'll do it. And so my third year came around, and they handed out the directories of everybody on their teams and everything, and it said John Moorman Youth Director, Team Manager. I'm like, wait a sec. So yeah, when she joined, I was the team director for Silver.
Okay.
And that's how we met.
How do you remember, like, the first meeting? Do you recall that? Or was it you just kind of got to know each other and then...
You were helping with CM training. He did a lot of our training for the children's ministers. And so at that point, he was my director or leader. And so he was a little scary.
But he juggled.
Right.
So that was a little less scary.
Yes. Everybody loved him.
Yeah. And so what was the point where you guys decide, oh, maybe there's something more here?
We traveled together for a year and a half before there was really any real interest. At that time, I was doing my best just to focus on ministry. And I was 28. So I definitely wanted a wife. I wanted to get married. But that time, I really wanted to be able to focus on ministry. And I remember her second year, I remember going to Mark Bearden at the beginning of the year and going, you know, Mark, I think it's going to be a very good year. That I don't think there is a single girl on this team that I'm going to be interested in, and I'm going to be able to keep my focus. Famous last words. Back then, like if a team member wanted to watch a movie, they would have to call me as the team director, and I would have to give approval for that. So Life Action Ministry approved Llama. That was the term. So we were in Wahama, and so all of our team girls were Wahama Llama Mamas. So, so it's the things you remember. But that's where I started to notice her for more than just a team member.
And what was it about her?
How she cared for people is what stuck out.
And what was it about him that you thought, okay?
His walk with the Lord and just how he led our team. We had Mark and Amy at that point. We didn't have extra help. And so it was John and Mark leading our team. And so to see him spiritually lead, and at that point I wasn't a believer yet.
Yeah.
And so it was sweet.
So did you all start then, how did you get married? Like, how did that whole thing happen?
I had gone and talked to Mark and said, hey, this is my interest. I want to pursue her. And so, and she had also
gone to Mark and Amy.
I made arrangements for that summer. Instead of working family camp, I was going to spend time with her family. Was very scared and intimidated, but talked to her dad, and the answer was, when I said, hey, I would like to pursue a relationship with Cara, the response was, I think that's something that might be able to happen. I don't know what that
know what that means.
So I spent a week and a half with her family, and then I headed on down to Georgia, and then she was going to follow. But not too long after I got home, Cara called and said, my parents said no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty laid back person, except when I'm leading, then I'm leading. But they saw me outside of my leadership. They thought that I would not be strong enough of a leader for Cara, that she would kind of just steamroll over me, which that's not a bad reason. It's not a bad reason. But so her parents said, no, it's not going to happen. And that made me unhappy. So
Slightly.
and towards now, I had already bought plane tickets to come back early before training camp started. Kara's mom had said to her, and quote, "Get over him. It's never going to happen."
No. I was crushed.
I'm not
Oh,
sure
no.
really how she felt.
Right. There was no ambiguity in that statement.
Nope.
So that was Friday. That following Monday, I was doing my quiet time in the lodge there at camp. And it was Proverb 20 where God says that the heart of the king is like channels of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it whichsoever way he will. And immediately I thought of Kara's parents, that if God wanted this to happen, he would change their hearts, their minds. But I also remember going, but even if he does, it's going to take forever, and he's probably not. Those are my thoughts. Super spiritual. And then Kara's parents brought her to camp later that week. And on Wednesday, her mom came to me and sought my forgiveness for how they handled everything. And it still wasn't, so now you can. But then, Cara, I got the we can still be friends talk. And I was talking with Mark Beard, and he's like, Jon, I know you. That's not going to work. He's like, you need to talk to her. So that Friday, 1 week after her mom said, get over him, it's never going to happen, that next Friday, I'm talking with Cara saying, I can't do the friends thing. And she said, well, I was talking with my mom, and she said, you're not going to find anybody better than Jon. Which either they really liked me or they had a really low opinion of that. I still, to this day, I don't know which way.
Take what you can, girl.
Yes, that's right. But it was just really cool to see. I mean, Friday, get over him. On Monday, God says, I can change their hearts if I want to. And then by that Friday, a total turnaround. And so that was in July, and then we got engaged in February, and they got married the following July.
How was that like sitting where you were?
It was a lot because I had admired Jon. He was our leadership and admired him. But there was another gentleman that was pursuing me.
Oh, my.
And in that process of Jon learning that this other gentleman, he overheard from our girls' changing room one day, and through the door, it was like, oh, yeah, so-and-so's going to talk to my dad. And immediately Jon's countenance changed. And I was like, what is wrong with him? Like, what is going on? And at that point, I had to ask him if something was going on, if I had offended him or something. And so in that process,
It was, are you having a bad day because of me?
I was so tactful. But we had definitely connected at that point, and it was enough for me to tell my dad, like, I have no interest in the other guy. Like, I knew that this is what God wanted, and so it was sweet. And then we spent the last part of the year then getting to know each other. We could go out with a third partner, third wheel, and get coffee or whatever, and it was really sweet. So yes.
And then do you get married soon after that, or how does that happen?
We got engaged in February. He came to see me on the road. Every night we would talk on the phone and be like, are you coming? Are you going to propose? Because we had got to that point. Are you going to propose on Valentine's Day? Nope, I'm not going to propose on Valentine's Day. It was the day before.
And one thing's missing. By that time, we were on separate teams.
Yes.
Oh.
Once we knew there wasn't interest, we requested to be on separate teams the following year because we knew our focus would be on each other if we were on the same team, and it would just make things harder.
Yes.
So.
It was really tough. Yes. Those minutes of calling. Thankfully, our teams ran a lot alike. And so we could time our calls during the day or whatever. And we would find out what happened with service or testimonies or, that type of thing. And so, yeah, he came to see us in Arkansas. Is that where we were?
Stuttgart, Arkansas.
Yes. Immediately we started planning the wedding and got married in July.
Yeah.
So what was life like on the road? I mean, obviously you're having this relationship, which is taking, some of your focus, but it sounds like you were also really focused in being faithful in what you were asked to do at Life Action. So what was it about Life Action or that road experience that you felt really called to do that?
Mine would definitely be going back to people. I loved host home experiences and being able to pour into serving those families. Getting to watch Jesus work was my favorite thing about being on the road. There was one host family during the summit. The husband told his wife, "The Lord has convicted me to tell you I had an affair." And watching God work, watching them lay on the floor and sob before the Lord and lay their sins just before the Lord, and then watching that sweet relationship come back together and the forgiveness of that and being able to watch that was amazing.
Oh, that's incredible. And just seeing it on such a real basis within the homes.
Yes.
Which is something, not having ever traveled on the road, my assumption was that a lot of your memories would really come from these church events, right? Where you're walking alongside churches.
Right.
But really what I'm hearing is that a lot of the heart of it and the difficulties, but also the beauty of it came from walking with these host families too, just because you're in such close proximity.
Right. Yes.
It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
You would get home at night and be excited to hear what God did in their lives during service, and they couldn't wait to share with you or what the children learned in clubs, or it was really, really sweet.
I would echo that probably the two things that most engaged me, and it engaged me enough that every year at training camp, during training camp, I'm like, I have the best job ever. I can't imagine not traveling. Was host family experiences that I loved the host family experiences. And then also getting to see God work in amazing ways when you're just at a church. You still get to see God work, but not always quickly. Like when I was pastoring, we saw God work, but it was a slow process. But in summits, God is doing amazing things in people's lives quickly and en masse. And getting to see God work that way made it exciting to be a part of road teams. Because I was late 20s, early 30s when I traveled, it wasn't, I would have host families who were like 25, 26, and they got a kick out of me calling them mom and dad, because they're my host parents, and that kind of stuff. And because of my age, if there was a host family with where they had kids who were older, I remember one. He was just a few years younger than me, and he had gotten out of prison just a few days before we arrived. The summits lasted 2 weeks. And so you got to spend a good bit of time with your host families. And over those 2 weeks, getting to know him and getting to talk with him and getting to invest in him and seeing getting to see the work that God did in his life during that time, especially, like I said, fresh out of prison. Man, if people could experience that, they would never question why somebody would want to be on a road team. So yeah.
Just probably the countless examples of transformation
Yes.
that you were able to be on the front row to
Yeah.
watch, right? And it's almost hard to explain
Right.
how, why and how and what happens, but it's like you show up faithfully. You have no idea what's going to happen every
Yes.
place.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you're just faithful to show up and to present these timeless truths. Nothing new about it. Nothing new about the Life Action message. We're able to create this system-wide pause
Yes.
where people and create this context where people can actually take time out of their schedules to slow down, to listen, to seek God and respond
Right.
Yes.
to him, right?
Yes.
And it's like it's so countercultural to do that these days, or to escape from the busyness to do that. But when you do that, when you're faithful and showing up and creating that, and then letting the Holy Spirit, inviting the Holy Spirit into work, incredible, beautiful
is.
things can
It really
happen.
is.
You know, it's hard to explain it probably without experiencing that, and
Yeah.
just how only God can show up and do that work.
Yes.
Yes.
Did that keep you in Life Action? Is that why you were here? Because you didn't stay on the road forever.
Right.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I was here for 5 years. And well, like I said, at training camp every year, I was like, I can't imagine not traveling. My last year, my thought was, I'd like to come home at the end of the day. And it kind of caught me off guard because that was never what I was always gung ho about traveling. And again, I can't imagine not doing this. And now I'm like, I want to come home to my home at the end of the day. And that was the year that we got engaged and married, and I started coming home at the end of the day.
Yeah. And did you have that same feeling you wanted to come home?
I was ready to follow God wherever God led John. And so it was sweet just to watch. I knew at that point we were both wanting full-time ministry.
When I took the youth revivalist position on Silver, I was told, now don't get surprised. Don't be surprised if you get all kinds of job offers from churches. I never got a single one. But I had purposed in my heart that even though I wanted to go into youth ministry and be a youth pastor, that I would not take a youth pastor position until I was married. Then the summit that we got engaged, before the end of that summit, I got calls from 3 churches. And it was just so cool to see God honor that. One of the churches that called, Cara's first year, it was in Maryland. Her first year, my third year, we did a summit out there. And I was the youth guy. And I remember when we left that church, I'm like, man, if I ever work at a church, I would love to work here. And so one of the churches that called was that church. And they said, would you be interested in taking on the role as youth pastor? I'm like, well, I have to pray. Okay. And that's, that was how we ended up marrying in July, leaving in 2005, and going on to full-time pastoral ministry.
Okay. Wow. Were you saved yet?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell me that story.
So we had kept close contact with Life Action. We would come back and forth, and for Seek Week, we would come back and do the Dynamite or Teens. It depended on what they needed at that point. And we had 2 little ones at that point.
Okay.
And we were very heavy into our youth ministry, just deep hurts for our kids, and we, for some reason, they wanted the youth to sit in to one of the main sessions going on in the tab, just speaking on assurance of salvation. And I was taking notes as fast as I could write them. And during the whole thing, God's like, this is for you, Cara. This is for you, Cara. And I'm like, Lord, I'm taking notes for our teenagers. Like, and let me just think here. And by the time Tom got done, I was like, this is me, God. Like, huge. And I was fighting it. Like, I've been a pastor's wife now for how many years? We had 2 children. And I'm like, no, Lord, I'm saved. All these years. And he's like, no, you're not. No, you do not have a genuine relationship with me. This has been a Cara works-based salvation. And now I want you. And so it was sweet. And we came out of the tab and he's like, what's wrong with you? You're crying. Like, I met Jesus. So it was super sweet. And so we went back and John baptized me.
It was my first baptism as a pastor. First person I baptized was her.
Yep. And then 2 of our teenagers got saved. And so it was super sweet just to watch the Lord work.
Yeah.
And being willing to say yes. But it's so much of our foundation here was where my foundation in Christ had started. And so it was super sweet.
Yeah, the 2 teenagers she referenced getting saved, it's when she got baptized, she shared her testimony, and it was them hearing her testimony and seeing themselves.
Yes. And it was a couple that we had been praying for. So it was really neat.
Were you surprised when she walked out crying? You were like, I'm a pastor. We were actually traveled on
Yes.
Action.
It was a surprise because, by all accounts, and everybody agreed, there was fruit in her life. But we can fake fruit for a period of time.
Yeah. Immediately, though, I could tell the difference. I had a hunger for the word, starting to see prayers answered. It was really, really sweet. Through that, then our kiddos started loving Life Action.
Okay.
And we had a couple teams back in the church that we were serving at.
Mm-hmm.
And our youth group started loving Life Action because of having the teams into our church. And they served, a few of them served on teams.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it was really neat just to see how God had used Life Action so much in our marriage foundation as well, in our training of our children even.
Yep.
And you had a couple of children at that time?
Yes. Yeah, we had 2 at that point.
Okay.
So,
And then how long did you serve as a pastor there?
We were there in Maryland from 2005 until 2016.
Okay.
We had both arrived at the conclusion that we felt our time there was done, and that God was calling us to something else. And the idea for that something else was to take a break from full-time ministry so that I could finally go back and go to seminary, which was what I had planned on leaving Life Action to do. And then we moved to Indiana so that while I was in school, Cara could be close to her family and have that help with the kids and that kind of stuff. God blessed us with child number 6.
Okay.
Yes. Very much a surprise.
Yes. And then I took our pastor. We were attending a church at the time, and I took the pastor out for breakfast just to be an encouragement and see how I could pray for him. And he asked how the transition from full-time ministry to 9-to-5 job was going. I said it was rough, and that I missed ministry and definitely would plan on going back into ministry. And he said, well, it's funny you should mention that. I came on staff as a youth pastor in 2005, and 2009 transitioned to family pastor.
Okay.
And so with that background, the church that we were attending then in Indiana, he's like, our whole is family ministry. We have nothing. And so again, it was that, well, I want to go to seminary.
It's so funny because you want to go to seminary to be a pastor.
Right.
You're already a pastor.
Yes.
But I want to go learn how to get a job, but you have a job.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. I'm like, okay, well, this is what we'll do. And so again, with going back into full-time pastoral ministry and getting ready to have another baby,
Wow.
put seminary on the back burner.
Yes.
And then served there until we came back to Life Action last year.
So you've been doing the pastor thing. You had been doing the pastor, and you had been a
Yes.
pastor's wife.
Yes.
And did you like that life?
Typically, yes. Some days, no, not at all.
Sure.
I mean, our first church was very sweet. Our second church, we had some hard days. And yeah, definitely lots of growing and seeking the Lord. They were 2 totally different opposite churches. And so our first church was very healthy. Our second church was growing, but it was a new atmosphere for our kids. Our kids didn't have friends at our second church. So that was big. Being a pastor's wife in the seclusion of you can't have any deep friends, or that circle was very tough.
So you're working as a family pastor. How do you find your way back to Life Action?
Like Cara had said, we had kept in touch with Life Action and had continued working with them. In 2018, they asked if we would be interested in coming and teaching base camp during Seek Week. And so we came and did that, and then they asked us every year after that. So every year we were coming back. During that time, Cara had always wanted to come back to Life Action, and I was good being a family pastor. I loved my job. Through all the coming back every year to teach base camp, I think the Lord was already beginning to prime my heart for that, and got a call saying, we don't have a position for this, but if we were to offer you a job designing, developing, and running activities and games for families and writing curriculum for kids and families. Would you be interested? You're not really asking that, are you?
Right.
I mean, because that just ticked
Mhm.
all the boxes of what I love. And so, I mean, yes, I'd be interested, I
Yes.
told him.
In this hypothetical job
Yes,
that isn't
yes.
available.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
They sent me the job description, and I took that to the senior pastor and the elders to get their counsel on it. And one of the elders looked at it, and he's like, "Oh, I was really hoping I could look at this job description and go, this isn't you at all." It's like, but this is you to a T.
And so do you then re-support and then come here to serve at the camp? Is that the process of
Yes.
how that happened?
Yes. At that time, I was 50 years old. I had 6 kids. It didn't seem like the prime time to leave a job where I had a paycheck and a home. And
Right.
so it was hard. It was kind of scary, but Mark Bearden, one of my favorite things of his that he used to say, he said, when you put yourself in a position where all you can do is trust God, he says you're in a very unique position. He said you can be the first person in the history of the world that God has failed. So 11 months later, we had raised our full support and started in May of 23.
And what have you enjoyed about it? You've done it for now a full year,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Seeing dads who are, some of them learning for the first time how to pray with their wives, how to, for the first time, really understanding that Sunday school teachers and youth pastors are awesome. But the job of discipleship, the responsibility of discipleship lies with them. And they can have Sunday school teachers and youth pastors come alongside to help them. But for them realizing that for the first time and then laying hold of that responsibility is just such an incredible thing to see. Your turn.
Wait a minute. Not so fast.
Yes.
You really have a burden and a heart for dads.
Yes.
But what is it about dads that that makes you tear up? Like the responsibility that dads have.
I know what it felt like the first time I understood that the weight of responsibility lies on me, and how I felt when I'm like, okay, but how? What do I do? The freedom and the joy that came when somebody helped me understand this is what you can do, this is how you can do it. And also, I have a very zealous passion to see God glorified. And I know that a church will go in the direction of the families in that church. And in most instances, those families will also go in the direction of the fathers, the husbands. Being a pastor for almost 20 years, I want to see God's church be God's church. And I know that a lot of that lies with the dads, and how they're leading and guiding their families. Are they raising up their children, passing on their faith to their children in an active way? A lot of times that's only going to happen when dads really step up to the plate and say, God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I need your grace. I need your power. I want to reflect you to my children. And so,
That's powerful.
yeah, that's kind of what drives my passion for dads.
Yeah, that's evident. Yeah. Well, I mean, and you had said like dads want to do that. They just don't know how.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
your role is to try to help and equip them for the how. And if you can do that, they step into that and that joy that they have.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's worth all the money.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
You had served as a pastor's wife and you had served on the team and you have so much to give. So what is it about Life Action? Like, where do you see your role fitting in, and what drives you?
The Lord's definitely still developing it. We did not expect to have baby number 7.
Yep.
Wait, baby number 6 was a surprise?
Yes, 6
And
was
then
a
baby number
surprise,
7 was a super surprise.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I am 44 now.
Uh-huh.
And so he has been the sweetest addition. He opens up huge doors. Whether he's at the ladies' retreat with me. The Lord had so many ladies pray over me the weekend of the ladies' retreat. And then for them to come back at the fall retreat and be like, where's baby? How did God use that pregnancy for me to get involved with all these ladies? He was such a huge surprise to us. But he wasn't a surprise to God. I love that. That's where my heart is. You know, to help the moms that are struggling and they're overjoyed to be at camp because they don't have to cook and they don't have to clean and they can just rest and be and watch their kids enjoy or watch their husbands play with their kiddos and just to be able to encourage their hearts and pray with them. And that is my desire.
And just that relatability that you bring. Yes. 7 children is a lot of children.
Yes.
To be able to really to be able to shepherd and love through. And so I have 4 kids and they're all completely different people. And you probably have that same thing. And so do you find yourself being able to relate to these moms who
Definitely.
are walking through because you've probably been through all of those experiences?
Yes. It's fun to watch moms go, wait, you've done this before. You know, and the moms are like, how do you get a quiet time in? How? So leave your Bible open. You might catch a snippet here or there as you're walking by or you're folding the laundry and you're listening to your Bible app. You know, just encouraging in those little ways. So it's sweet.
Yes, and just from hearing other women and experiencing, you know, just the warmth and the love that you just give to people, even in the tiny moments that we've been able to like be at camp, and you are just you're so intentional, right? And so even as you're saying you're figuring it out, Jon, what do you see how God is using her in Life Action?
She does something that not a single speaker can do when they're up on the platform, and myself included. She can get into the individual lives of women like that. And again, I love it when women are coming to me talking about her. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel important. One lady and her husband actually said, Cara needs to write a book on how to get into people's lives. She said, they said, do you think she would do a class? And it really is something spectacular to watch. And as she's with our kids, it really is what God uses to make that connection.
Yes.
She is good at asking questions, which is so important. Rather than just talking about herself or spewing information or unsolicited advice, she just asks questions. Our ministry at Life Action would be very, very different in a not good way if it weren't for how God uses her and her ability to connect with people.
And you guys are really just on the beginning stages of your ministry here at Life Action, right? Yes. Like you're coming back, so you've already been a part of it. Yeah. But as you're praying for how God will use you, how do you hope that He uses you to minister to the families that come to family camp?
A driving passion for us is to see God glorified, you know, and for them to grow spiritually as a family. It's been a journey, you know, for us even to grow together as a family and to see God glorified. And so my heart's desire is to be able to be behind the scenes so that He can serve, but at the same time to serve together. When He proposed, He said, will you serve the Lord by my side? And it has been incredible to do that together all these years. And we have a big heart too for other pastors because we've walked in those shoes. Right. And so a lot of the pastors' wives I gravitate to because I get it.
Yeah. You see them in a way that other probably women don't, because you've been there.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, what I would like to see are continued opportunities to engage with men, dads especially. A lot of dads just feel inadequate. I mean, I feel inadequate to the responsibility God has given me. And I would love to see more opportunities to speak into the lives of these dads and help them understand that when it comes to leading their family, they don't have to go to seminary. They don't have to have written a theological dissertation. They just need to be one step ahead where their kids are. They don't have to be Mr. Spiritual Superhero,
Yes.
10 miles ahead of their kids. If they're just one step ahead of their kids, they can lead their family, where they can see and view their kids and their wives with joy. Proverb says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. I want husbands to understand that. And Psalm says that children are a blessing from the Lord, for husbands to see that and experience that in their lives. That's what I'd like to see come out of our ministry here.
I love that.
Definitely.
There's so much, it's so practical
Yeah.
and achievable.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's the power of it, right? And like, and knowing that we can't do it alone. Not only are you all doing it together, but you're doing it with Jesus
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
first
Yes.
and foremost,
Love it.
right?
Yeah.
So, well, I think that's a great place to end.
Mm.
And I just want to thank you both for sharing your not only your story but your heart that just comes through in both of it. So
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you.
thanks for listening to this episode of Changed Lives. If you are encouraged or inspired by what you heard, I want to invite you to take the next step. You can support the people whose story you just heard and others like them by visiting lifeaction.org/changedlives. Whether through prayer, giving, or sharing these stories, you can be part of what God is doing to revive relationships and transform lives.